We made a mess.
Oh, yeah! You gotta get sweaty! You gotta get sweaty in here! It's time to get sweaty!
Hey everyone, I got some new merch. There's really nothing more to say except for the fact that I think it's pretty f***ing cool. Yeah, new merch. Go check it out. Oh, I see that cool pint glass. I made that. And I made that too. Ooh, and that. That's, yeah, I like that one. So, yeah, go buy some HMODS merch. It let your friends know how cool it is. How cool I am. Or that you think I'm cool, whatever. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so as you can see, things look a bit different than last time. Reason being is this. This is what's called a paint removal wheel for the angle grinder. We went out and got 3 of these f***ing things. Problems. Okay, so the door panels were fine. These were easy to grind off. You can see all this is good to go. It's imperfect, and some of the paint is thinner, which means the rusting solution will work on that. The issue came from everything else though. The motherboard plate, the back plate, the bottom plate, the top plate, and the front plate. All of these plates, for something like this, this is completely impractical for that. So I needed a different solution because it just, like, this one was okay. This is the top plate. And matter of fact, I was lucky, and I was grinding really hard. I managed to get a little burn mark there. So this one came out mostly okay. You'll notice that, like, I didn't get everywhere. And that's because the wheel is just too big. They don't make them smaller than 4.5 inches. So I needed a different solution. So it's been 2 fucking days. We went and got this stuff, aircraft non-methylene chloride paint remover. Now, if you're a car guy, you know that non-methylene chloride is not methylene chloride. And that's because the EPA 2 years ago decided that methylene was bad. So we got non-methylene chloride, which means paint removing sucks. I'd never done it before. This is a learning experience for me. All the videos that I watched, they're like, yeah, this is terrible. Some guy came up with this. I mean, when you're removing paint, basically what you do is you spread the shit on, you cover it with plastic or a paper towel and plastic, and then you let it sit for an hour. It doesn't work with shit like this because the idea is that the paper towel and or the plastic sits on the paint remover and sort of acts as sort of an evaporating agent. So the paint is just supposed to come up with it and you can like wipe off the rest. It doesn't work like that for this because you can't get plastic in every little crevice. So I put on 2 coats on each panel for all of this, and the best I could do was okay. This one came out all right. I'm hoping, like, by wiping away all the stuff after I like washed it with hot water, I'm hoping that the paint is now thin enough so that the salt solution will rust through it. But I don't know. Like right in here, like this is the worst panel along with the front one. It's just there's so many little nooks and crannies that it was impossible to get in there, and when I tried to get in there with any kind of wheel from the Dremel wheel got ruined right the fuck away. This was a flapping wheel on the Dremel. Junk. You know, honestly, like, I know it's gonna look super cool. Like, it's gonna look fucking awesome, and I'm so happy how we're doing this. Because all the imperfections and all this and the paint removal and all that good shit, it's just gonna look super fucking cool. It is now, however, gonna look the way I pictured it in my head. And, you know, it never happens like that, but still, like, it's just one of those things where, like, I envisioned perfection, and it's not going to be. But who knows? Like, the paint remover is still kind of caked on there, and it does look really aged. So, I mean, I really, really do dig that. So maybe, like, once it's all done, even with all the rusting, maybe we'll do some, like, drippage or something and give it a little bit more age to it. So now, there's 2 processes to this. One, we spray it with vinegar. and then we spray it with salt, hydroxide, or hydrogen peroxide and vinegar. But the first thing we have to do is we have to take all this and glue it to the f***ing thing. Oh, we didn't get J&B weld. The best I've got is this Goop automotive stuff, which I'm reasonably sure would work, but as the saying goes, accept no substitutes. So we have to go to the hardware store and get some J&B weld. So, blink, and now we have J&B weld. Okay, so it's been a day. We went to the hardware store yesterday. The one we have here is called Menards. Don't know what you have there, but whatever. First of all, we got these. And as it turns out, I don't need them, but I'll tell you why in a second. We did get J&B weld, and for you modders out there who don't know what this stuff is, if you happen to want to do something with your computer case that involves cutting or putting shit on or putting shit back on or modding at all, you should think about using this stuff. This stuff is industrial strength epoxy. It's a two-part epoxy, which means the two parts themselves don't do anything, but together they do a lot. So you have this sort of, this is like the epoxy, but this is like basically what it does is by putting these two together, you're basically creating acrylic resin, and that stuff bonds to anything. So this is the resin and this is the hardener. So when it's done, when it dries, it's tough as steel. Oh, yeah.
Do you want to repeat anything that you said while you were crinkling the bag?
No, screw them. You have to mix equal parts of it, and you really have to mix it before you apply it. And you can't just apply it with a paintbrush. You have to use like one of these. And so as it turns out, these do have a use. But so what we're going to do, and before we get to any of the rusting, we have to mount these big giant things. And I've already cut them, as you can see. I cut this, and I cut the 1-inch stuff. And also, I'm sort of lumbering through the English language today. I stuck on these bolt heads. I cut the bolts. I cut the bolt heads off to make it look like, rivets through steel. The idea is to make this look like an armored base. So that's gonna look super damn cool. And especially once we get everything on there, I've already sort of pre-rusted this a little bit I bathed it in vinegar. So I've done a lot. So I did all this last night. I bathed this stuff in vinegar. I cut it off and I let it fall into a bath of vinegar and let it sit there for an hour. It's got a good start on rusting. This stuff's already rusty a little bit, so it's gonna go a long way. Oh yeah, this is another thing I did. Since we scraped off all the paint, I sprayed vinegar onto here, and as you can see, it's doing a good job with a nice base coat of rust. But once we apply the salt solution, it's gonna be exponentially different. But so on this part of the panel on the inside, that's fine. I wanted to do a test on this just to make sure it was working, because if it was aluminum, if I was wrong about what kind of metal this is, this whole build was going to shit, and I'd have to completely revamp what I was going to do. But it's steel, it's rusty, this is good. So on this side, since I haven't touched it, this is the downside. Before we get everything all together, I have to mount one of these and one of these. Now, this being the right side of the chassis, like this is the right side of the chassis, I have to use the longer ones, and I'll tell you why. I want the longer ones to come out a little bit past where it is, just because I think it's going to look cool. I dig asymmetry. So this one is going to come out right about there. And so you'll be able to hit the power, oh, that's right about there. You'll be able to hit the power button and everything, but it's going to look super fucking cool. I couldn't do that on this side because of the USB ports, and I don't think it would have get in the way. Oh, well, let's just see. Nope, I was right. It would. totally get in the way. So you'd have to like open the door panel in order to use the USB port. So, oh, one thing I was doing while I was scraping while I was grinding all the paint off, I hit the corner, it went poing. So I had to bend it back into place, which if it like ends up rusting even more, you're gonna notice that sort of crease there. It's gonna look super cool. So this is the top, this is the bottom. And another reason why I got these paint sticks, I was going to use it as a shim because my initial plan was to put the top panel back where it was, and I'd have to measure, you know, the space between this panel and then the top of the top panel, so as not to, you know, when I place this, I didn't want it scraping against the chassis at all, because we're going to cover it with clear coat. As it turns out, the tiny little bit of curve in there is enough to keep it off, but also, and this is the cool part, it also, if I'm mounting it right here all the way down, we still got plenty of clearance, so we have clearance. So I know I'm talking a mile a minute, but basically the good thing is that I don't need to put everything together yet. So we're gonna do this. Oh man, that just looks so cool already, doesn't it? Oh man, that looks good. Look at that. Just look at it. Now we have industrial grade epoxy. So we're just gonna put it like that. But I need to make sure that this part is just going to the lower part of the bottom, because I don't want it to like peeking over metal. This stuff is going to secure seguridad in place very, very nicely. And for this, I need to give it just a bit of clearance. So we need to have just a little bit on each side. Need to make sure that and give it about a 1/4 inch on each side, and then we'll clamp it down. Because the thing about this side of it is, it needs just a tiny bit of clearance in order to get over where the feet would go, but we're not using those feet anymore. There's one side. I think we're good. So what I'll do...
How many more vice grips do you have?
Why do you have to be so f***ing smart? It was just pointed out to me that we have a small problem, and that problem is that I only have 4 vice grips, and I need 8. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it here, and this will set for a few hours, and then I'll do the other one. We'll come back next week and finally get to the salt solution. I thought we were going to get to it today, but we're not. So thanks for watching the idiot do basically nothing. We'll see you next time.